Welcome to today's lecture on Greek Mahakavyas. I thought of, I actually wrote a very long introduction, but yeah, since we are running out of time, so we will directly start with the topic. One major thing is the Mahakavyas are the culture and the Mahakavyas, they go hand in hand. So we cannot imagine Indian society without Ramayana and Mahabharata. So it has become idioms like Lakshmana Rekha Gada. So everybody understands. Similar to that, in English we have things like Achilles heel or Penelope's weaving. So Pandora's box. Now any culture which is actually shaped by its Mahakavya, so we cannot differentiate them. So in that regard, we wanted to understand the Greek Mahakavyas. So no better person than the person who has studied Greek Mahakavyas in its original form. So we have with us today Arjun Bharadwaj. So he has a huge list of accomplishments. He has translated a lot of books. He is a great scholar on Indian aesthetics. So we will start with the session. Suppose that we will have the prize distribution of our Ramayana book. That's the plan for today. Before any further delay, I request Thanks.
At what time should I stop? ನೀವು ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಡಿ ಅಷ್ಟೊತ್ತಿಗೆ ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತೀನಿ. ಓ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ತನಕ ಮಾತಾಡ್ಬೋದಾ? Okay, we'll have question and answers also.
Normally we have 2 hours. So since we are delayed by 20 minutes,
okay.
I thought I'll remove the first 5-10 minutes.
Okay, fine. All right. Yeah. चिदानंद कलांवाणीं वंदे चंद्रकलाधरां नैर्मल्यतारतम्येन बिंबितां चित्तभित्तिषु ऊर्ध्वोर्ध्वमारुह्य यदर्थतत्त्वं दीः पश्यति श्रान्तिमवेदयन्ति फलं तदाद्यैः परिकल्पितानां विवेकसूपानां परंपराणां. नमस्ते नमस्सर्वेभ्यः. ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಾ? Am I audible?
Yes.
But ಇಲ್ವಾ? ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಪೇಕ್ನೆಸ್ ಇದೆಯಾ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಈ ಸೌಂಡ್ ಅನ್ನೇ ಬ್ಲಾಕ್ ಮಾಡೋಷ್ಟು? ಓಕೆ, ಯಾ. I preferred that everybody sits on one side, but okay, you may distribute on both sides, no problem. ಹೇಗಾದ್ರೂ ಸರಿ.
That is the case. His view, that his view is not.
Okay, by the way, how many of you have read the Iliad and Odyssey, at least in an abridged form? You have read this book only, right? Okay, that's a different thing. Okay. How many of you have no idea about the story? Oh, no clue at all. Ramayana and Mahabharata, how many of you don't know? Okay, fine. Okay, let's go from the known to the unknown then. All right. So, just like India has 2 major kavyas, Arsha kavyas, Rishi Pranita kavyas, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, the Western tradition, the 2 great epics of the Western tradition, the earliest literary work of the Western tradition is also Homer's Iliad and Odyssey. They are 2 huge kavyas, just like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata of India. It's very, just like the Ramayana started off the literary tradition of India. In fact, until Valmiki wrote the Ramayana, the fact that a language can have an aesthetic purpose, it can have a poetic purpose, was not even realized in the world. Pruthivyam padya nirmana vidyaya prathamam padam, it is said. On the earth, the art of writing poetry, or the first step in the direction of writing poetry, was given by Valmiki. So that is why the Ramayana is called the Adi Kavya and Valmiki is called the Adi Kavi. and inspired, of course, by Valmiki. Vyasa wrote Mahabharata, inspired by the historical events or the everyday life events around him as well. The Mahabharata came about. Now, just look at the names of the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. The name Ramayana refers to, if you expand it, Ramasya Ayanam, Ramayanam, like many of us know, right? So it's the journey of Rama, journey, not just the physical journey, the emotional journey of Rama and the spiritual journey of Rama, Ramasya Ayanam. The Ramayana also is called Sitaya's Charitam. It's also called Paulastya Vadam. So, if you look at the three names of this epic, the Ramayana, we immediately see that it's focused upon one person, Rama, another person, Sita, and the killing of one wicked person, the evil person, the villain, Ravana. It's very clear from the title itself. But look at the name Mahabharata. It's not referring to one person. It's in fact referring to a geography. The geography of this Bruhat Bharata, the story of this huge Indian subcontinent. So that is the Mahabharata. It's also the story of the people, the kings belonging to the Bharata Vamsha. There are 45 generations of kings who are spoken about in the Mahabharata. So while the Ramayana is kind of focused upon 1, 2 or 3 people, here the Mahabharata itself, by the very name, it kind of indicates a very large expanse of geography and a large lineage of kings, a very long lineage of kings. And when we say a very long lineage, the time expanse is also large. So spatio-temporally, Mahabharata is very huge and Ramayana is limited in its spatio-temporal expanse. Can I have the fan here as well? Okay. Yeah. Unless it distorts the sound. Okay. Okay, all right. Yeah. Now just look at this. The Ramayana and the Mahabharata, there is travel as one of the important themes in the Ramayana and the Mahabharata. Rama going to the forest, a travel itself, most of the epic, happens when Rama is outside, Rama, Sita, Lakshmana are outside the comfort zone of their houses. Similarly, in the Mahabharata also, you see that the Pandavas are in Manavasa for 12 years and 1 year in Ajnatavasa. So while they are away from the comforts of their houses, that is when majority of the events happen. And there is war in both epics. So war and travel seems to have been the themes, one of the major dictating themes in the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. Now coming to Homer's epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey, the names are very similarly suggestive, just like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. The term Iliad, by the way, how many of you have watched the movie Troy? Okay, a couple of you. There is this movie Odyssey also coming out. I think in June 17th. June 17th. Okay. The movie is getting released on June 17th. Okay. Now, if you look at the names of these epics, Iliad is the story which is centered around the place called Ilion. So it's a geographical indicator. Odyssey is the journey of the hero Odysseus. Just like we have Ramayana. Even today in the English language, the word Odyssey has been used in a very idiomatic sense. It was a great Odyssey. It's a historical Odyssey, etc. The Odyssey of time. We use it in many ways. So a very difficult, challenging, arduous journey is called Odyssey. So now let us try to understand what happens in these two epics. What's the story in the two epics? And this work of mine, which was declared that it demands an honorary doctorate. So it's a comparative study of the Iliad and the Odyssey with the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, and how the perspective of the Purusharthas, Dharma, Artha, Kama, especially, and a very small tinge of Moksha, just like it is seen in the Indian epics, the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, the Homeric epics, the Iliad and the Odyssey, also have a very similar life view, similar life perspective. So in comparison with the Greek epics and the Indian epics, I have also analyzed the Purusharthas. So there is a story. What happens is, the city of Troy is what is known as Ilias as well, Ilion or Ilias. There was this prince of Troy. So the king of Troy was Priam. He had multiple children. There was Hector and Paris and Deiphobus and many such heroes. So Paris once had to judge a beauty contest between three goddesses. So the three goddesses were Hera, Aphrodite, and Athena. By the way, there is a lot of congruence or cognates between the Sanskrit language words and the Greek language words. See, for example, the word asti, etat pustakam asti. Asti is to be in the Sanskrit language. That is estin in the Greek language. Aham Arjunasmi, Arjunaha asmi, Arjunosmi. Asmi, to be. This asmi, that is I me. I me in the Greek language. Asti is estin. I me is asmi in the Sanskrit language. So this is the same word estin, which becomes est in the Latin language. It becomes ist in the German language, and it is in the English language. This is a book. So it comes from the same asubhuvi dhatu in the Sanskrit language. So it's that common, there's a common source of origin of the Samskrita Bhasha and the Yavana Bhasha. I said this because Aphrodite, or what is called in the Roman mythology as Venus, she in the Greek mythology, she is pronounced, her name is pronounced as Aphrodite. Apros means water in the Greek language, just like apaha in the Sanskrit language also means water. Udite means somebody who is born out of it. Somebody who is born out of water or watery foam, such a lady is Aphrodite. And she is the parallel of Apsara in the Indian tradition. Apsu saranti iti apsaraha. Ap iva saranti iti apsaraha. Those who move about like water, who have very beautiful movements, dancers, beautiful women, they are the apsaras. So Aphrodite is the goddess of beauty and of love in the Greek tradition. And her daughter, or an associate of Aphrodite, is Eros. It's from the word Eros that the word erotic comes. Eros is the god of love. He's the equivalent of Manmata in the Indian tradition. See, in the Indian tradition, Manmata has got multiple names. Madano, Manmato, Maraha, Pradyumno, Meenaketana, Kandarpo, Darpako, Nagaha, etc. There are many names. Kamaha, Panchasharaha, Smaraha. Just like Manmata in the Indian tradition has got floral arrows. He shoots arrows and makes people fall in love with each other. In the Greek tradition, Eros, who in the Roman tradition becomes Cupid, he also has metallic arrows. A golden arrow if two people have to fall in love with each other. An iron arrow if the two have to fall apart from each other. If they have to develop animosity with respect to each other, he has an iron arrow. So the fact that love can be created or can be removed by the shooting of arrows, and love is embodied as a deity, personified as a deity, is again a common feature between the Indian tradition and the Greek tradition. And the greatest of the gods in the Greek tradition, what is his name? Zeus is the anglicized pronunciation, Zeus. In the Greek language, his name is written as delta, epsilon, upsilon, sigma. Heard these things, right? Delta, rate of change. Epsilon, what? Permittivity of free space or whatever. Epsilon, yeah. Okay. Upsilon, what? I don't know. Sigma is what? Variance, huh? Or the standard deviation or whatever. Yeah. My Purvashrama was in engineering. So some recollection of that I studied in NIT Surathkal and Zurich and a few other places. Yeah. So delta, epsilon, upsilon, sigma is a word which is Dios in the Greek language. So Zeus, which is the English word, is pronounced as Diaus in the Greek language. Diauhu means the Akasha or the Svargaloka in the Sanskrit language. So Svargaloka, whatever is the word for Svargaloka, which also means brightness, is the name of the greatest of the gods of the Greek tradition, Diaus. He also holds the thunderbolt, just like Indra, etc. Now, coming back to the story, Paris was one of the princes of the city called Troy, and he had to judge a beauty contest between Hera. Hera is the mother goddess. She is like our Shachi Devi, the wife of Indra. So Hera is the wife of Zeus. Just like Indra has multiple affairs on earth, Zeus also had multiple affairs. See, Indra comes and has an affair with Ahalya and many other women on earth. Similarly, Zeus also had multiple affairs, and this Hera was always fed up of this, her husband, Zeus. Okay, anyway, Hera and Athena, who is the goddess of wisdom and valor. So, in the Indian tradition, if you have to say, it's the combination of Brahma and Kshatriya. Brahma, which is knowledge and wisdom, Kshatriya, which is physical valor and protection, etc. So, she is a combination of the two. Our Subramanya is a combination of the two. Devi Durga is a combination of the two. Mahasaraswati is a combination of the two. Brahma and Kshatriya, both of them coming together. So, Athena was the other goddess. And Aphrodite, who is the goddess of beauty and the goddess of love. So, Paris had to choose between the three of them. All the three of them tried to do a match fixing with Paris beforehand. So, Hera says, if you choose me as the most beautiful goddess, I'll ensure that you have a house full of children and you'll be the best king over the entire world. So, that's the promise. Hera says, if you choose me as the most beautiful of the goddesses. Athena says, I'll make you the greatest warrior and you'll lead the greatest army, the most powerful army. She tells that to Paris. His name is also Alexander. And Aphrodite, Venus, she says, I'll ensure that you'll marry the most beautiful lady on earth. Now just think about this in terms of the Purusharthas. Hera has promised a dharmic life, a proper gruhasthashrama with good number of children and a good dharmic role over a large number of people. Athena has promised a lot of kshatriya, again dharmic kshatriya. But here Aphrodite, she has promised the most beautiful woman irrespective of who she is. She might already be married, that doesn't matter, but still she'll become yours. So that was the promise made by Aphrodite. So who do you think Paris chose? So obvious apparently. Between two dharmic choices, there is a karmic choice, which is karma, desire. See, isn't it, I mean, to have a stable family with children and good empire, etc., isn't that good? And having wisdom, knowledge and valor, isn't that good? So, over this promise made by Aphrodite, that supersedes, overrides upon the promises made by Hera and Athena. And of course, Paris chooses Aphrodite as the most beautiful of the women. So, this is called Paris judgment, the judgment of Paris. So, there are many beautiful paintings connected with this from the ancient Greeks, and also in the modern Renaissance period, we find many paintings connected with this theme. So now, because Aphrodite had been selected as the most beautiful of the goddesses, she ensures that Paris gets to marry a lady called Helen, who is already married to a person called Menelaus, the king of Sparta. So Troy today is in Turkey, and Sparta is in today's Greece. Just like Indian culture extended from Iran in the west to Japan in the east, this huge geography, the Greek culture extended throughout today's Greece, Macedonia, large parts of Turkey, and southern parts of Italy, northern parts of Africa. All of that was the Greek culture. So today the countries are divided like this, but Troy was also a Greek cultural, it was inspired by the Greek culture. So all the way from Troy, this guy Paris, he travels to Sparta in a diplomatic mission, as though he's going there for a political treaty. He goes to King Menelaus and he elopes with his wife, Helen. Okay. Now, in the Greek tradition, just like in the Indian tradition, it is said that guests should be treated really well. It's the duty of every host to ensure that even before you ask who you are, where have you come from, what is the purpose of your coming, how long are you going to stay if you have somebody at your doorstep, before asking any other question, offer them hospitality. What do you want to drink, or what do you want to eat? Would you like to rest, etc.? Without even caring about their identity, it's important to take care of them. So the Greek tradition repeatedly says that the divine walks in the footsteps of the Atithis. Atithis, those who come without any announcement of a date or a place or a time, etc. Tithi means a specific time. Right? Similarly, that is there in the Greek tradition. Atithi Devo Bhava. What does it mean? What does the statement Atithi Devo Bhava mean? Is that the meaning? What? No, no, I mean, okay, fine. Now, what you are saying is approximately correct. Ah, evam. Okay, did everybody get that? Can you translate it? Exactly, right? Atiti devaha bhava. Got it? Yeah. Okay. Matru devaha bhava. Become a person who considers the mother as God. Become a person who considers Atiti as gods. Okay. Roughly what the other said is also correct. So here, what this guest has done, he has just eloped with the wife of the host. This is exactly what Ravana does. It's not elopement there, it is kidnapping. Coming as a guest and kidnapping somebody else. But look at the stability of Sita in this instance. Throughout that kind of sthita prajna, that constancy or stable mind we see of Sita, it's an extraordinary situation. Look at the situation in which Sita got abducted. All of us know the story of the Ramayana, right? She, for a moment, she had thought that her husband Rama is dead or is dying. Because the Mayamruga had called out, hey Sita, hey Lakshmana, right? In Rama's voice. The Mayamruga had faked its voice also, the Rakshasa Maricha. And she had fought with her brother-in-law Lakshmana and sent him away to look for Rama. Even in that kind of mental turmoil, a sannyasi is at the doorstep and she is ready to offer bhiksha to him. Imagine our own situation. Our husband or wife is dead or is almost dying, and we have fought with the rest of the family. Will we have any mental space to offer any atithya to a person who is in need? We wouldn't. So the point with Rama and Sita is that, irrespective of your own personal situation, don't spew bitterness onto the society. How positive you can be towards the society, irrespective of your own situation. So that is what we see in the life of Krishna, Rama, Sita, Draupadi, and many other people. So, mic suddenly works somehow. Okay, yeah, all right. So, but here it's an elopement. It's not an abduction. So Paris brings Helen to Troy, the city of Troy. The city of Troy had very strong walls. In fact, there have been excavations which have been made by an archaeologist called Schliemann. It's been shown that the city of Troy actually existed with very long, strong walls. Okay, anyway. So now Menelaus' wife has been abducted. His older brother, Agamemnon, is the king of all the Greek islands. See, Greece is a country of about 3,000 islands. So Agamemnon gathers a huge army to wage a war against Troy, to bring back his brother's wife, that is Helen. So Agamemnon and Menelaus and Odysseus, Achilles, many such heroes set out on ships towards Troy, and all of them come to Troy, and the war takes place for 10 years. So all of them are camped there, and this is the story of Iliad. The events which take place around the city of Ilion, which is also called Troy, around the walls of Troy. For 10 years the war takes place, and the Iliad starts at the 10th year of the war, at the beginning of the 10th year of the war. So what the Trojans had done, or what the Greeks had done, so the people of Troy are called the Trojans, and I'm calling these people as Achaeans or Greeks. What the Greeks had done is, they had gone around Troy and weakened all the allies of Troy, that killed many such people, etc. All the smaller allied towns they had defeated. And Agamemnon had also attacked a temple of Apollo and kidnapped and raped the daughter of the Purohita belonging to that temple. See, this guy is claiming to be a dharmic king, and adharma has happened to his brother because his brother's wife has been abducted. But what is he doing? He wants to be the leader. And what is he doing? He is abducting the daughter of a priest, and he brings her as his concubine. And Achilles also had a girlfriend called Briseis. So now the god Apollo was very angry. So these sacred places are very important. You cannot go and rupture the aesthetics, the ethics there. And it was an adharmic behavior. So Apollo had sent some kind of disease in all the camps of the Achaeans. The Achaeans have camped outside the walls of the city of Troy. Now Odysseus and all the elders on this side, Nestor was one of the oldest people on the side of the Achaeans. He says all this disease is because you have wronged the temple tradition there. See, respecting the divine and respecting the temple tradition and respecting the Purohitas. See, the word Purohita is very interesting. If you translate it as priest, it's going to be very wrong. Purastitaha Purohitaha, a person who leads the entire society from the forefront. Such a person is Purohita. Purasya hitam yo dadati, sopi Purohitaha. Person who takes care of the well-being of the entire Pura. Pura means the city. Pura can also mean the body. A person who takes care of the welfare. Such a person is also called Purohita. Purastitaha Purohitaha. So anyway, Purohitas had to be respected in the Greek tradition. But Agamemnon has wronged it. And Achilles, who is the greatest of the warriors on the side of the Achaeans, he has a girlfriend. Now what Agamemnon says is, I will give away this daughter to the priest. But then Achilles' girlfriend, her name was Briseis, she should come to me. So now Achilles is very annoyed. See, this guy is saying Agamemnon is here because an other's wife should not be abducted. But now he is abducting somebody else's daughter. He is abducting somebody else's girlfriend. And who is that person? Achilles, who is the strongest of the warriors on his side. If Achilles is disgruntled, if he is unhappy, the Achaeans cannot win at all. Something similar happens in the Mahabharata. On the side of the Kauravas, a very important warrior, who was that? Karna was a very important warrior. He said that he will be a dog on the side of the Kauravas, but he doesn't want to shift to the Dharmic side, that is of the Pandavas. Okay, he is the best friend of Duryodhana, he said. But then does he fight the war actually, Karna? What happens? Does anybody know this nuance? Why doesn't he come? Disrespected by whom? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Bhishma, who is the commander-in-chief, he says that you are an Ardharata. And Karna says, no, I'll not fight the war hereafter. It's very similar here. Being the commander-in-chief, Bhishma, it is also the responsibility of the Senadipati to keep all his people in good humor and make them fight in a united manner, right? So here again, Agamemnon, the greatest of the warriors on your side, why are you hurting his ego by snatching away his girlfriend, right? So Agamemnon takes away the girlfriend of Achilles. Just like Karna is hurt here, Achilles is also hurt and the war again continues. No victory on either sides. So Karna also does not fight the war until Bhishma falls. See, all the people on the side of the Kauravas, Drona was fighting on the side of the Kauravas, right? Was it a selfish decision or a selfless decision for him? Until when does he fight the war? Until he hears that his son is dead. Whether it is true or false, that's a different thing. Nan maga sattoda antakshna nanin yuddha madodilla. And until when does Bhishma fight? Until he faces Shikandi. For everybody, more than the greater purpose, the bigger purpose, their own smaller purpose is coming. My ego is hurt. Karna does not fight. My son is dead. Drona stops fighting. There is a Shikandi in front of me. Bhishma stops fighting. So very similar. Even here in the side of the Achaeans, everyone is concerned about their own self, not about the bigger picture, unfortunately. Okay. Now look at this. Paris is a very weak hero. His older brother, Hector is the strongest of the Trojan heroes, and Achilles is the strongest on this side. Paris says, it's because of me that 10 years there has been a battle. I will go and fight Menelaus, because Helen was originally Menelaus' wife. So let me have one-on-one combat with Menelaus. He comes out, but like a very meek fellow. He gets hurt by Menelaus, and the Devi, the goddess Aphrodite, takes him back to the bed chambers of Helen. Now Helen is disgusted. What kind of a person did I run away with? My ex-husband is there, such a valorous guy. This guy is being protected by a female goddess and he's coming and sleeping in the bedroom here. What kind of a guy did I come running behind? Look at the contrast here. In the Indian tradition, the villains are also very powerful guys. Look at Ravana. Whatever he wanted, by hook or crook, he had achieved it. Very adharmic, but powerful. The entire city of Lanka was not built by him. It was built by his half-brother Kubera. He had conquered it. The Pushpaka Vimana was not his, hijacked from Kubera, first plane hijacking. And yeah, anyway. And Sita was the last woman whom he abducted. Before that, many women were abducted and raped, etc. Ramba, Punjikasthala, Vedavati, many women had been harassed. And ಅವ್ರು ಏನೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೋ ಅದನ್ನು ಸಾಧಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತಹ ಸ್ಥೈರ್ಯ, they had so much of physical might as well, right? But here the villain is a very meek fellow on the side of the Trojans. But there are mistakes on both the sides here. The Achaeans are doing certain kinds of mistakes here. The Trojans are making certain other kinds of mistakes. Okay, anyway, the story goes on. There's no victory on either side for a very long time. And the Achaeans pretend as though they are going away from there. And then they send the Trojan horse, right? Virus. Trojan horse virus, everybody knows, right? So something which comes as a disguise, as though it is a gift. But then it is something which is very detrimental, which can be nasty, which can destroy your system. So that is what is a Trojan horse, right? The Trojan horse virus. So the Achaeans pretend as though they are going away from the city of Troy, and the Trojans start celebrating victory. And next day morning, they see that there is a huge wooden horse standing in front of their gates. And all the priests of Troy, they say that you should not take this in. But then there are some people who say that this is a gift of the Achaeans, a gift of the Greeks. We will take it within the walls of our city. So the Trojan horse is taken in, and the doors are locked of the gate. And all these warriors who were inside the Trojan horse, at night, when the Trojans were celebrating, the Greek warriors who were inside, they come out from there, they pour out from there and kill all the Trojans. So this is what happens. Anyway, so that's the story of the Iliad. Now the Odyssey, like the name itself suggests, it's the travel of this one hero called Odysseus from the city of Troy back to his capital city of Ithaca. Odysseus had a wife called Penelope. See, for 10 years he was away from his house fighting the battle. And it took him 10 more years to travel back to his homeland in Ithaca. For 20 years, the husband was away from his wife. And just before Odysseus left for the battle, Penelope had given birth to a son called Telemachus. Okay? For 20 years, the wife is separated from the husband. She is constantly waiting for the husband to come back. And again, men keep coming to Penelope and say, you are very beautiful. Why don't you marry one of us? And they also keep telling this boy, Telemachus, who is your father? You have not even seen your father, right? Your mother had an affair with one of us, and that is how you were born. You are a bastard child. So these kinds of thoughts were being filled in the minds of this little boy, Telemachus. And Penelope, 20 years she is bothered by 108 suitors. Compare it with Sita. For 1 year, by one man, she is being troubled. But here, time and again, there are men coming and troubling her. See, the point here is, there is a bigger metaphor here. If a king is away from his kingdom for 20 years, there is going to be anarchy. One man's mistake, the mistake made by Paris and Helen, it has cascading effects on entire civilization. The entire city of Troy got destroyed. And what is happening to the dampatya of these two people here, Odysseus and Penelope? What is happening to the city here of Ithaca? What is happening to the other cities when the kings are away? So one man's ego can have a detrimental effect on the entire society. That is what we see in the Ramayana also. Ravana's ego, Ravana's abduction of Sita led to the downfall of the entire city of Lanka, the entire kingdom of Lanka. And look at the kind of promises that Dasharatha made to Kaikeyi. One lady's selfishness, more than the kingdom getting a good king in the form of Rama, Kaikeyi was bothered about what will I get if Rama becomes the king? Will I be the Rajamata? So that is what she is bothered about. And that is why she goes to the Kopagruha and has fallen on the ground there, etc. And Dasharatha comes and makes all kinds of promises to her. Dasharatha, in the Kopagruha to Kaikeyi, he says, Kaikeyi, if you want, I will release a terrorist from the jail, if you want. So imagine releasing terrorists just because this lady is crying. A king making these kinds of promises. He also says, if you want, I'll put an innocent person behind bars. A king driven by karma, if the lady says yes, and if he puts innocent people behind bars, what kind of example he is setting to the society? Right? It is said, Raja Kalasya Karanam. A king decides the nature of his times. Look at the history of the world. Whenever there has been a bad ruler, the entire civilization has suffered. Look at the world wars, one person's ego, one person's ambition of superiority of race or superiority of genetics or whatever it is, that led to the downfall of multiple countries. Right? Anyway, so that is the bigger picture. That is the bigger dhvani or the suggestion here in this in these epics. So while Sita, a single lady, she suffered under the hands of Ravana for 1 year. Here Penelope, for 20 years, she is suffering under the hands of 108 people, constantly bothering her. So Penelope comes up with an idea. She does something called weaving. So Odysseus' father Laertes was there. Mother had passed pain of separation from her son. Contrast this with Dasharatha also passes away because of Pitru Shoka, Putra Vyoga Shoka rather. So Pitru Matanaha, the because of the pain of separation from his son, Dasharatha passes away. Here the mother passes away because of the pain of separation from his from her daughter, the mother's son. The mother passes away because of the pain of separation from her son. Okay. So Penelope comes up with an idea. She tells all the 108 people, I will marry one of you once I finish weaving a death shroud for my father-in-law. So it is also kind of the Grihastha-ashrama. I belong to this family, Odysseus' family. So it's my duty to ensure that once my father-in-law dies, Laertes, my current father-in-law dies, I'll have to ensure that the death rites are carried on properly to him. So there is a death shroud which I am still weaving for him, and once that is done, I'll marry one of you. So what she does is, in the morning she appears to be weaving it, and at night she disweaves it. She removes all the stitches. So she keeps on doing this, and all these men are waiting stupidly, watching. They are feasting constantly upon all the resources of Odysseus' palace. A king is not there, and the entire kingdom goes to all these kinds of rowdies. And these women are constantly being perturbed. They are constantly being disturbed, unfortunately. Okay. So at evening, she would release it. So for 3 years, she keeps on doing this. And what happens is, her own Sakhis, her own friends, they would have already started having affairs with these men. They reveal to these men that our queen is just cheating you. She is weaving it in the morning and disweaving it in the evening, at night, when all of you are not there. And all that happens, and these people, again, the trick is revealed and so on. Now Telemachus, he starts to look for his father, because Penelope had said that your father has gone out for the war and he'll come back. By then, Agamemnon, who was the commander-in-chief, he had just come back to the kingdom, his kingdom of Mycenae. He had just come back, and what had he done? One of the princes of Troy, called Cassandra, he had abducted her and come back. He was actually married. He was actually married to a lady called Clytemnestra. But he has come back with another lady. He comes to his house, and there he sees that his wife is already staying with another man called Aegisthus. So he says, Agamemnon is fighting for Grihastha-ashrama dharma. My brother has been wronged. My brother's wife has eloped. So that is what he is fighting for, and he is himself not living by that ideal. So he has come with another lady, and his wife, Clytemnestra, who is also Penelope's sister. Penelope, who is actually the one who is very pativrata, a great pativrata, she is having an affair with another man. So Agamemnon comes there. He kills the lover of his wife. The wife kills Agamemnon, and their son comes and kills the mother. So this kind of tragic end to the family. But here look at Telemachus on the other hand. Homer gives a contrast between families. Good values which are followed in the family, and bad values in another family, where you have an artificial facade that you are giving dharma to the world. You are the leader to the world. You have that facade, but you are not following it your own self. So in the case of Agamemnon. But here in the case of Penelope, she doesn't even know if her husband is alive or not. But for 20 years, she is ready to wait. And the son tries to go and reunite the mother and the father. He goes on looking for Odysseus. And that is when Athena, the goddess Athena, she comes in the disguise of somebody called mentor. mentor. The concept of mentoring comes from here. By the way, all of these are personifications. Later on, towards the end of Odyssey, we also hear about a character called Rumor. Rumor was actually a messenger who, whenever he would go out in the city, he would tell the news, but he would add a lot of masala to it. Okay, so that kind of gossip spreading. So that is what became rumor. That is kind of the English word which is used here. And the word mentor also, because Athena comes in the disguise of a man called mentor. So that is how the word mentoring has also come. Mentoring this child to reunite his parents. And this term Achilles heel, which Chandan just mentioned before the talk, see, it's very similar to Duryodhana's weak spot which was his tie. There are 3 versions of the story. None of the versions come in the original Mahabharata. The 3 versions are that Gandhari wanted to make the entire body strong. So she had to smear the body with some kind of oil, Duryodhana's body. So Duryodhana had to come naked in front of Gandhari. But then Krishna comes in the disguise of Duryodhana's sister Dushala. So Duryodhana eventually covered his thighs and private parts, etc. So that part became weak. Another story is that Gandhari wanted, if her eyesight fell upon him when he was naked, that would make him physically strong. But then he covered the lower part of his body, so that became strong, etc. There's another that became weak. The rest of the body became strong. And there is another version of the story. Similarly, Achilles, who is the greatest of the warriors on the Greek side, the mother wanted to make the child immortal. The mother is a river goddess, Thetis. See, just like in the Indian tradition, we have rivers which become mothers. Any example from the Mahabharata, Ramayana? Ganga, the mother of Bhishma, right? So Thetis is the mother of Achilles. She wanted to make him physically very strong. So she dips him in the river called Styx. Styx is the Patala Ganga, namali Vaitarani, just like we have Vaitarani in the Indian tradition. So Styx is the river which flows through Tartarus or Hades, Hades. So that's the river which flows through there. By the way, in the Greek tradition, when a person passes away, you'll have to keep 2 coins on his closed, he or she's closed eyelids. Because those 2 coins, the person after his death, he or she goes to the Patala Loka and he or she will have to cross the Styx river. And there is a boatsman. And to that person, this token will have to be given. If the token is not given, the Styx river crossing won't happen. Okay. In the Indian tradition, when the person dies, you put grains of rice in their mouth. Because in their after journey, they must have some food. That is why the Pinda Pradhana is also done every year. Because human one day is Pitrus, humans 1 year is the Pitru Devatas 1 day. So if you're doing Shraddha every year, that means you're offering food to them every day, something like that. So just like that, the offering of these 2 coins is there in the Greek tradition. So Thetis, the mother of Achilles, when he was a small baby, she wants the baby to be immortal. Which mother wants the baby to die? Although all of us know theoretically that it is an inevitable reality, death is an inevitable reality, we still want to kind of overcome that. We wouldn't want ourselves to die. We didn't want our family, our children to die. So she had dipped the entire baby in the river Styx, but she was holding the heel of Achilles. And she had taken that out and the heel of the baby had become very weak. So today, by the way, Achilles ankle or Achilles heel is a pain that teachers get. For a long time, if they are standing and teaching and writing on the board, their own body weight makes their heels weak. Or even people who carry very heavy weight on their shoulders, they get this Achilles heel problem, a weak point. And Achilles also dies when Paris shoots an arrow at the heel of Achilles. That is how Achilles dies. Bhima breaks the thigh of Duryodhana, and that is how he dies. Anyway, coming back here, so Telemachus, he goes around looking for his father, etc. And Odysseus, he and his men, they come across many different lands on their way back. There is the story of also the Cyclopes. Cyclopes, which were one-eyed Rakshasa kind of beings, one-eyed Jains. It is very similar to Kabandha in the Ramayana. Kabandha had one eye and a mouth, immobile, two arms, again very symbolic. Whatever you see, you want to put it into your mouth without second thoughts. There is no thinking at all, and there is no stomach to digest. So extreme consumerism. So whatever you see, you want to put it into your mouth without forethought or without even giving time for assimilation. And that was the Rakshasa whom, of course, Rama and Lakshmana killed. He was actually a Gandharva, Yaksha, we get to know from the story. And he is the one who leads him to Shabari, etc. Leads Rama and Lakshmana to Shabari. Okay, anyway. So Cyclopes are similar one-eyed beings. So these were found in certain islands. See, this is again a personification of the fear of unknown lands and unknown beings. See, whatever we don't know, we want to imagine the worst there, or our own fears are kind of personified in all these kinds of beings. And these Cyclops are the ones who had made the thunderbolt of Zeus, etc. There are many such stories. Zeus or Deus, who is called Jupiter in the Roman tradition. Okay. Anyway, Cyclops, there is some kind of joke that happens. So there is one Cyclops called Polyphemus, and all Odysseus and his men, they enter the den of Polyphemus and they escape from there. While escaping, Odysseus blinds the only one eye of Polyphemus. And when he is going away, this Cyclops asks him, "What is your name?" He says, "Nobody is my name." This is a very famous story. In many of the comics also it used to come. So the Cyclops starts telling all his friends, all the friends come. They start asking him, "Who has removed your eye? Who has hurt your third eye?" The Cyclops Polyphemus says, "Nobody hurt my third eye." Right. So Odysseus, that shows some kind of very smart attitude of Odysseus. See, by the way, all of us have heard the Sindbad stories, right? Where he goes to very many unknown lands, and there are beings who eat very strange kinds of plants and strange kind of food, and somebody who can turn them into pigs, etc. All of that is inspired by Odyssey, the stories that we see in Odyssey. And by the way, there is this other set of stories in India, which is called the Katha Sarit Sagara. There again, we find the travels to unknown lands and encountering many kinds of fear, very scary beings, etc. Okay. Eventually, Odysseus comes to an island of a lady called Calypso. Calypso is a goddess. She says that I will make you immortal. Be with me forever. But then Odysseus also, as a very dedicated husband, he says, the few more years that I'll get to spend with my mortal wife, Penelope, that is going to bring me greater joy than staying with you forever. Forever staying with a person whom we don't like, versus staying even for a few moments with a person whom we really, dearly love. Such a person, so what is more? What is greater? So Odysseus chooses to come back to his wife Penelope. Any similar story in the Indian tradition in the Mahabharata, where immortality is offered, but still the man or the wife chooses a mortal spouse? Where? Sorry? Bhima and Hidamba. Where is immortality? Yaksha Prashna. What do you see there?
So, on one hand, I forgot what the Yaksha had to offer. But on the other hand, reviving only one of the brothers is possible. So, he
revives Nakula. Okay.
So that
okay.
He gets the entire.
No, my question was in some kind of a marriage. Arjuna and Urvashi. Urvashi was his great grandmother, and he does not marry. Yeah. What? I can't hear. Both, in fact, Nala and Damayanti there in that story. To marry Nala, to marry Damayanti, all the gods had come. Indra was there, Vayu was there, Agni was there. All of them offered an immortal position in Svargaloka. But Damayanti wanted to be with Nala only because she has fallen in love, and true love itself is immortal. It's not the physical mortality or immortality that matters. So Damayanti chooses immortal Nala over and above all these devatas. All the devatas had come in the disguise of Nala. But then she recognizes who is the true Nala because the devatas don't blink and their feet do not touch the ground, and the garland that they were wearing, that does not wear away with time, etc. So Damayanti chooses the right Nala. Even in the case of Satyavan and Savitri, Savitri is so much in love with Satyavan, the honest person, although she knows that he is going to die. Even then she is okay to be with a mortal husband, to the extent that she goes and fights with Yama and gets back her husband. Such dedication, that Pativratya in Savitri, in Sita, in Nala, in Damayanti rather, we find in many cases. So similarly here, Sativratya in the case of Odysseus, and Pativratya in the case of Penelope. Finally, Odysseus comes back to his island, but he comes with nobody to support him. There is nobody to help him. See, when Rama came back to Ayodhya, people were just craving to welcome him back. Bharata had taken an oath that if Rama does not come at the end of 14 years, I'm going to enter fire and commit suicide. Rama comes with an entire parivara of the Vanaras, of Sugriva, of Hanuman, of Vibhishana, so many people, of course back with his brother Lakshmana and wife Sita. All of these people come together, but Odysseus is not even able to go back to his city because he is all alone. The city, the kingdom has fallen into the hands of rowdies, all people creating ruckus. So Athena comes again in the disguise of mentor to Odysseus, and she asks him to go in the disguise of a beggar to his own city. So Odysseus goes in the disguise of a beggar. At the outskirts of a city, there was a swineherd, a person who used to take care of pigs. His name was Eumaeus, which itself means a person who is friendly. He welcomes this person and he asks, "Who are you? From where have you come?" And this swineherd, he starts saying, "Oh my God, our king Odysseus has gone away. Have you heard anywhere about Odysseus?" All that. So Odysseus is in disguise, and the lowest strata of the society is still craving for him. This old swineherd is still craving, but he does not recognize because Odysseus was in the disguise of a beggar. And the swineherd, Atiti Devo Bhava again, a very, very poor person. He has only one coat to wear. He has only one bed to sleep on. He has got only one begging bowl. He offers food in that begging bowl to this new beggar, and he offers his own cloak to kind of protect him, and he offers the bed for him to sleep. So Odysseus is really thrilled that there are at least old generation people who are still craving for my return. Then he goes towards his palace. There was this old dog called Argos, which was his pet dog. For 20 years, this dog was faithfully waiting for his master. It had become really old. As soon as it sees Odysseus, as soon as it smells Odysseus, its ears stand up. It becomes excited, but it doesn't have the strength in its body to even stand up. It looks at its master, smiles at him for a moment, and passes away, as though that faithfulness, it was waiting for its master. And there are these new generation dogs. All of them come barking at this beggar and they try to ward him away. Okay, anyway, he goes towards his palace. His son Telemachus had by then realized that this is his father who had come, because Athena, the goddess, she had come and told Telemachus that it's your father who is coming back. So he is about to enter the palace. There, one of the old maids called Eurycleia, who was older than Odysseus also, who was like a motherly figure for him, she comes and offers Aditya. She cleans the feet of Odysseus. While cleaning, she touches his legs, and there she finds the mark, a mark which was there on Odysseus' feet, which was when he was hunting a wild boar in his younger days. The boar had made a mark, and that was a wound, which even today had a scar. she immediately gasps. So it is my master who is back. She's thrilled, etc. But then Odysseus asks her to be quiet because there are 108 suitors who are constantly asking for the hand of Penelope. And then the father and the son, they come up with an idea. With the help of Athena, they defeat all the 108 suitors. And then now Odysseus goes to Penelope and says that, yes, it is me, your husband, who is back. But Penelope does not trust him at all. Just think about it. For 20 years, different men are coming in different disguises and saying that your husband is dead, your husband has married with somebody else, and he's not coming back, etc. People have just been cheating you. People have just been deceiving you. So she does not have any trust on this guy who has come here. So she says, if you're really my husband, then there is this bow and arrow which actually belong to Odysseus. You pick it up, string the bow, shoot an arrow through 7 axe, kodali, parachute. So it is usually an axe, you put it through wooden whatever, right? So 7 such axes were arranged and an arrow had to penetrate through all the 7. Look at the Ramayana. Hanuman goes to Sita, and Hanuman sitting on the top of the Shimshuka Vriksha, he wonders, in what language shall I speak to Sita? If I speak to Sita in the Samskrita Bhasha, Ravanam Manyamanama Sita Bhita Bhavishyati. He thinks, if I speak in the Sanskrit language to Sita, she will think that I am Ravana and she will get scared. See, if I speak Sanskrit to Sita, she will get scared thinking that I am Ravana. So then he decides that he will speak in the Maithili Bhasha. Maithili Bhasha is the dialect which was spoken in the region from where Maithili, that is Sita, comes from, Janaka's kingdom. So he speaks to Sita in that language, but still Sita is not very trustful about Hanuman, because Mayamruga came, Rakshasas came in that disguise, and other Rakshasa came in the disguise of a sannyasi. You don't know the kind of disguises that the Rakshasas may take. So she does not trust until Hanuman displays the ring of Rama. Darshaya Masa Anguliyakam, it is said in the Ramayana. Okay, anyway. So then Sita develops trust. See, similarly here, for Penelope has lost trust in the world, has lost trust in the men. So to gain trust, to prove that you are my husband, you'll have to string this bow. Rama had to string a bow, Shivadanas, to marry Sita. Here for Odysseus, it's almost like a remarriage, reunion with Penelope, and he has to string the bow. And Rama, to show his physical might, he had to do the Saptatala Bhanchana. To whom? To show his might to whom? To Sugriva, right? So here, to prove his strength to Penelope, Odysseus had to do that. So he shoots that arrow through the 7 axes. So now Penelope is kind of convinced, but then still she does not believe it. Okay, there might be other people who are as powerful as my husband or even more powerful than my husband. So this strength of test of Veera is not sufficient. She asks another private question, which only me and Odysseus could have known. What is the 4th leg of our marital bed, our private bed? What is it made of? Similarly, in the Ramayana, Sita, in addition to giving the Chudamani, see, if Hanuman shows the Chudamani to Rama, Hanuman could have got it elsewhere also, right? Sita had dropped her jewelry while she was being abducted by Ravana and while she was being carried away. So it could be a part of that jewelry that Sita had dropped. So she tells a private story to Hanuman. The Brahmachari ge, Auribra Shungarada Kate, the love, a romantic sequence between herself and Rama. That is what she reveals. So there was this Kakasura who had attacked Sita when Rama was asleep on her lap in the forest. So that had kind of removed her clothes, etc. So Rama had made some kind of a romantic joke about Sita in that instance. So this romantic joke she shares with Hanuman as an additional proof for Hanuman having seen Sita. So similarly here, Penelope, to ensure, to check if it is really Odysseus, she asked, what is our bed made of? So then Odysseus says, that the bedroom was made of one oak tree, and one of the four legs of their bed was made of the same oak tree. See, even today in many of the houses we see tengin mara idre mane olgade. A coconut tree would have grown inside the house. They wouldn't have wanted to destroy it. It would have become a part of the house in some way. So similarly, the oak tree had become a part of their bedroom, and a leg of the oak tree had become a part of the oak tree had become one of the legs of their bed. So this is again indicative, this is suggestive, indicative of the deep rooted couplehood, or the grihasthashrama, the pativratya, or the love, the shringara between Odysseus and Penelope. Just like it is unshakable, 108 people offer her so many things, she does not agree to marry or marry anybody else, any of these suitors. Calypso offers immortality to Odysseus, but still he does not agree to marry Calypso. Right? So now that reveals the true identity of Odysseus, and Penelope and Odysseus reunite, and of course they live happily ever after with Telemachus. Okay, now this is loosely the storyline. If you actually go through the story, there are these multiple emotional nuances, multiple value nuances that we see in the story itself. See, I mentioned about Achilles was disgruntled with this commander-in-chief. This commander-in-chief has hurt my ego, so I won't fight for him. Irrespective of how many other people die on my side, it doesn't matter, but I won't fight for this man. He had a very good friend called Patroclus. So Patroclus was a little more kind-hearted. He sees that the Greeks are getting defeated at the hands of the Trojans. So he wanted to go and fight the Trojans. So he puts on the armor of Achilles, and he takes the shield and the sword of Achilles and goes and fights the Trojans. But he is eventually killed by Hector, and the Trojans think that they have actually killed Achilles. But it was actually Patroclus who was dead. This news reaches Achilles, and he's overcome with so much of emotion. See, he did not want to fight for a bigger cause, but my friend has been killed. So to bring him honor, I am going to fight. So these kinds of ideas we find throughout both the epics. Similarly, the kind of Atithya, Odysseus, when he is out on a journey, he comes to the Cyclops caves. The Cyclops are kind of rustic beings who do not have the sophisticated tendency of offering an Atithya. So Cyclops would just eat away whoever would come to their doorstep, as against this poor swineherd who is ready to offer so much of hospitality to somebody who is at the doorstep. Similarly, not just that, a smaller kingdom called that of the Phaeacians. There Odysseus goes, and the kingdom offers so much of hospitality to him. There we hear of a bard, a blind poet, singer, who tells, so this occurs in the Odyssey. So that blind poet, he reflects the story of whatever happened in Iliad. That is whatever happened in Trojan War. So the story of Troy had already become a Maukika Parampara, an oral tradition. It had already become a poem in the mouths of court poets in other smaller kingdoms as well. And Odysseus himself listens to this story, and he gets to know what had happened to Agamemnon, what had happened to Menelaus, and how the Greeks eventually won, and what is happening back at his kingdom. All that was told in the form of a song come poem by this blind bard in the court of Phoenicians. Now it is said, I'll just conclude with this point, that Homer was a blind poet. He was physically blind, it is said. But it is very unlikely that a blind person can describe nature so vividly in the manner that Homer has done in both the epics, Iliad and Odyssey. If you look at the manner in which he describes the seas, the clouds, the mountains, the rivers, the trees, etc., he must have actually experienced the colors. He must have actually experienced the shapes, etc. Similarly, in his description of people's costumes, people's war gear, people's ships, etc., we see that he must have actually witnessed it. The blindness of Homer is kind of indicative of him being unbiased. See, in our court of justice, we have that lady, right, who is blinded. She's not judging people based on their appearance. It's the dharmic perspective. It's the antaranga chakshus, or the chakshu, antaranga nayana, which is kind of open to determine what is dharma and adharma. So similarly, Homer is an unbiased person. He just lays bare the black, white and the grey shades of his characters. Just like Vyasa was. Vyasa is writing the story of his own grandchildren, isn't it? The Kauravas are his biological grandchildren. The Pandavas are his biological grandchildren. All of us know this, right? Dhritarashtra was born to Vyasa. Pandu was born to Vyasa. Through Ambika, Dhritarashtra was born. Through Ambalika, Pandu was born. Usually, what do grandparents do? About their grandchildren, they will have no complaints. The best grandchildren. About their own children, they will have complaints. That is why grandchildren, when they want justice, appa amma idun kodustha illa, go to grandparents. You will get justice. They're always pampered. Yavag nodidru muddu madodu, always getting all their demands fulfilled. And go and complain about parents to grandparents. So grandparents will have authority there to bring their children under control. But look at Vyasa, totally unbiased, telling this positives and negatives of his own grandchildren, the Kauravas and the Pandavas. The Pandavas are not really white people, right? As in, they're not absolutely dharmic. There are many adharmic tendencies in them as well. And the Kauravas also have got many adharmic tendencies. And Vyasa is not biased towards any of that. Just like Homer's blindness is a metaphor towards his unbiased approach to writing an epic poem. See, if you are biased as an artist, if you are biased towards one color when you are a painter, then all your paintings will be monochromatic. You are using only green. Little bit of beauty can be brought in, but the multitude of colors, the more and more colors you bring in, better is the nuances and better is the diversity and beauty naturally in your painting. Similarly, if you are biased towards only one raga when you are a musician, then only that if you are singing, your versatility is lost. So unbiased approach is required both for the artist and the connoisseur. One of the greatest of the aestheticians in India, Abhinavagupta, he gives the example. A person who has got jaundice, everything that he sees is yellow. The problem is with his eyesight. There is some problem with your perception. There's no problem with the paintings around you. Don't go to a painting gallery when you have jaundice or when you are wearing green glasses. When it's a problem with your eyesight, everything is looking green. Or when you have just recovered from fever. If you eat anything, everything will taste bitter. Your mother or whosoever might have cooked, okay, no gender bias. Your father or mother could have cooked, or yourself, you could have cooked in the best possible manner. But then your tongue is being biased there, right? So similarly, this unbiased approach is extremely important for any kind of artist. And Homer's blindness is a metaphor for that. And Valmiki, I think last year during Ramanavami I spoke, what Valmiki represents, that I had mentioned. Valmika, an anthill, is called Bhuvashravaha in the Sanskrit language. It's a biological impossibility for somebody to sit under an anthill without food and water to meditate for thousands of years. Biological impossibility. But it is a spiritual reality in the sense that it is communicating a value there. So if you want to be a poet, your ears should be open to the earth. You can't be biased and you're seeing it only in one perspective. That is not proper. That is not right. Bhuvashravaha, be open to inputs from everywhere around. Understand people's emotions. Understand the conflict in values. Understand the conflict in emotions. Be open. And a Valmika is made up of the finest particles of sand. So the finest aspects of life, show it as an idealistic thing in your epic, in your poem, so that people at least try to match onto that. STP, standard temperature and pressure conditions, is an ideal. But then we would want to match as close as possible to that to kind of achieve the perfect experimental conditions, right? So having an ideal is very important for our own well-being. All of us live in realistic world, but then ideal values are important. Similarly, the Vyasa Tattva is also very interesting. Vyasa means the diameter. The diameter is the longest chord of a circle. It touches every point on the surface of the circle. So, Vyasa Tattva touches every aspect of human life, and it is all encompassing. Every other chord is very small, right? It cannot encompass, it cannot span the entire area of the circle. But Vyasa can span the entire area of the circle, etc. Like this, we get many, many different metaphors, many different values from the Ramayana, the Mahabharata, the Iliad, and the Odyssey. Very great epic poems. I would suggest that anybody who would go through the original is slightly tricky. At least a reliable translation of the Iliad and the Odyssey can be a life-changing experience. It can really brighten your life. It can really be inspiring. It can really be motivating. And what all these epics do is, they entertain us. They enrapture our hearts. After enrapturing our hearts, they enlighten our minds. This is what is called Kanta Samhita in the Indian aesthetic tradition. First, win over a person's heart. And once you win over him or her, he or she will start listening to you. If they have some kind of hatred towards you, they won't listen to you. First, win them over, and after winning them over, they will naturally start listening to you. So that's the idea. Okay, with this very, very introductory lecture to Homer's epics, I'll conclude, and I'm very glad that Samskrta Sangha is engaging with the epics of another tradition as well, another sister tradition, one must say. The Yavana Bhasha, Yavana, those were the Ionians, the original Greeks, the Greek settlers in the Ionic that region. They are the ones who are called as Yavanas in the Sanskrit tradition. So it's very nice that the Samskrta Sangha has taken responsibility of that. Let me conclude by quoting one verse from Manusmriti. Manusmriti, people understand unnecessarily without reading it. They make all kinds of accusations about it. The Manusmriti says, Etad desha prasutasya sakashat agrajanmanaha swam swam charitram shiksheram prutivyam sarvamanavaha. People born in this land, that is Bharatavarsha, sakashat agrajanmanaha, they have got superior tools. They can potentially have a superior vision. Because of the superior vision that they have, because of the Vedantic background, because of the rasa tradition, the aesthetic tradition, the yoga, Ayurveda, etc., very superior contributions of India. What they can do with the superior vision is swam swam charitram shiksheran prativyam sarvamanavaha. They can educate people of the rest of the world better in their own cultures. If Greeks want to understand their own culture well, take heed to Sanatana Dharma. See, that is exactly what I've done. The concept of the four Purusharthas, as it is beautifully designed and defined in the Indian tradition, the Greeks don't have. From this perspective, we can show the value of Homer's epics. The Alankaras, we have 120 Alankaras in the Indian tradition: Upama, Rupaka, Utpreksha, Atishayokti, Drishtanta, etc. In the Western tradition, there are only 5 or 6 Alankaras. Lack of definitions. 35 Alankaras from the Sanskrit tradition I have identified in Homer's epics. So, using this Sanskrit tradition, we'll be able to appreciate Homer's tradition much better. Using the Natya Shastra, we'll be able to appreciate Shakespearean theatre much better. In fact, another study which I have taken up, which I'm seriously pursuing, is the Aboriginal cultures of Australia, because I'm constantly, regularly visiting Australia. The Aboriginal culture there is so close to Sanatana Dharma. Their story of creation of the sky, the story of the creation of the earth, etc. If you see that, it's like the Nasadiya Sukta, the Prithvi Sukta, the Nakta Sukta, etc. that we get in the Veda. Very similar concepts. Through the Sanatanic viewpoint, we can help them and appreciate, help them understand their own culture better and make the whites who are settled there appreciate the Aboriginal culture better, how closely they are related to nature. So it's a very good initiative that the Samskrta Sangha, from this perspective, Etad desha prasutasya sakashat agrajanmanaha swam swam charitram shiksheran prativyam sarva manavaha. Thanks a lot, everyone, for your attention. Okay, if there is a question, yeah, you may ask me.
You can ask. Any questions?
you suggest? Should we study Samskrita first or?
Samskrita first. Samskrita first. Yeah. Yeah. Samskritadalli, Ramayana, Mahabharatadalli, once you have understood the Ramayana and the Mahabharata very well, very deeply, then going to these epics is advisable. But then, nevertheless, because we are Bharatiyas, it's our responsibility, first of all, about our Matrabhasha. See, now Samskrita people around India, they will take. Around the world, there are many takers for Samskrita Bhasha. But for Kannada, there are only Karnataka people will have to speak that. Somebody from Punjab won't come and learn the Kannada language. Similarly, Tamil or Telugu or any Matrabhasha, then Matamahi Bhasha. I call Samskrita Bhasha as Matamahi Bhasha because all our Matrabhashas are derivatives of Samskritas. They are children or some way connected to the Samskrita Bhasha. So our mother tongue and grandmother tongue, extremely important to learn as Bharatiyas. Once we are very well versed with that, going through Homer's epics or even Virgil's epics or even the Western tradition stories, we'll be able to appreciate them really well. But a person in the West, if he needs to connect to his roots, it's very easily possible through the Homer's epics and Virgil's epics, etc. I should say. Yeah.
You mentioned about the language of Hanuman when we spoke in Sanskrit. There's not mentioned in Ramayana.
In the original Ramayana, it's not there. In the critical edition, it's not there. Yeah.
Any sources where you have
In the non-critical edition, it's there. That is the what is called as the Gorakhpur edition. It is there, and the Gorakhpur edition. That is where it is there, and the one prepared by Kuppuswamy Shastri in Tamil Nadu. See, we have multiple manuscripts of the Ramayana. The critical edition is what kind of tells us what is the common ancestor there. That way, Lakshmana Rekha that he mentioned is also not there in the critical edition. The other later day versions, they do have it. Adbhuta Ramayana and Adhyatma Ramayana, they also have a passing mention of this. Anything else? Sorry. Kambar, yeah. Many differences between that and this. In the original Ramayana, Ravana abducts Sita. He does not come in a Pushpaka Vimana. He comes in a chariot pulled by donkeys. He abducts her on the earth, not flying up in the sky. Jatayu comes and destroys this terrestrial chariot, the one which is moves on earth. Once that is destroyed by Jatayu, Ravana picks up Sita and jumps into the sky. Because he is a Mayavi, he is able to fly that way. And Ravana picks her up like that. But however, in Kamban's Ramayana, Ravana is not even able to touch Sita. So he chops off the earth around Sita and puts that in the Pushpaka Vimana and goes. That is again a very great value addition to Ramayana. Sita's Pativrata is so much that Ravana cannot even touch her or go near her, and Sita cannot be removed from her mother, which is the Bhudevi. She can never be separated from the mother, that is Bhudevi, and with the Prithvi Tattva she is taken, something like that. So there are many variants in the later day traditions. Similarly, there is Turve Ramayana in Kannada, even in the other, with respect to Mahabharata as well. Andhra Mahabharata is there, Viliputur's Mahabharata is there in Tamil, Kumaravyasa Bharata is there in Kannada. Throughout the country, we have Tulsidasa's Ramayana. That itself brings a difference. That is where we first see Lakshmana Rekha. No Sanskrit version of the Ramayana has anything connected with Lakshmana Rekha. Not at all there. But the Deshabhasha Ramayanas have got that. See, that's again a very good value addition. One line drawn by Lakshmana out of great conviction, great Bhratru Prema, this Ravana has achieved everything that he wanted. He has been able to lift the Kailasa mountain and shake it. He has conquered the city of Lanka. All the women he wanted, he has conquered. No dharma, but artha and kama. Extremely materialistic and extremely possessive, desirous, etc. All that he has been able to achieve, one line he is not able to cross. Absolute shattering of ego. The power of Lakshmana's Bhratru Prema is kind of reflected there. Look at that. See, Bhajagovindam says, Artham Anartham Bhavaya Nityam. To Bharata and Lakshmana, to Bharata especially, entire kingdom was offered. But he sides with Rama. Ramo Vigrahavan Dharma. Like it is said, I will side with Dharma and not with this Artha. Similarly, in the case of Lakshmana also, he sides with Rama. Nobody asked Lakshmana to go to the forest. He sides with Rama of his own accord because of his Dharma Pravritti. So that is reflected in the Lakshmana Rekha. All these value additions have been done in the later day tradition. Yeah.
If you are asked to choose one character which is analogous to Rama,
Odysseus. I mean, one cannot say exact equivalent. Rama is very, in fact here I've got a few copies of the book. I've discussed about the grayness of the characters. Rama is largely white. Odysseus is white but has grey shades. There are certain kinds of mistakes that he does also. The Pandavas are very grey. So, in the Ramayana, we can clearly see which is the dharmic side and which is the adharmic side. It is much more grayer in the Mahabharata. The Pandavas are also erred. Who asked them to gamble? And while gambling, Yudhishthira putting his own brothers for stake and his own wife that way, etc. The Kauravas have made large number of mistakes. Pandavas also throughout they have made mistakes, smaller ones. But they are not internally evil. They can be corrected. If somebody says, oh, Ramayana books are here, interesting. Oh, okay, fine. Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, okay, fine. Okay. Right. So, the Pandavas have also erred. Although they don't mean bad, they can be corrected. On their own, they do not follow the right path. But here in the Greek epics, especially in the Iliad, the Trojans make mistakes, the Achaeans also make mistakes. Both of them are at fault. The gods also participate. Gods also have animosity between them. But Athena is the only character who is dharmic throughout, like Sri Krishna. So I have equated Athena with Sri Krishna. See, it's also very interesting. The Indian tradition is largely feminine. The Greek tradition is largely masculine. But the greatest of Indian gods is Krishna and Rama when we see through the epics. But the greatest of the Greek gods is Athena when we see through those epics. See, that is why here in the cover also, Ramayana and Mahabharata, indicating Rama and Krishna. But here, Iliad and the Odyssey, Athena is the common kind of the godhead heroine in both the cases. We have kind of equated it. So exactly to Rama, you can't get too many people. Odysseus is kind of close to Rama. Penelope, I should say, is even more pativrata than Sita in some sense. Okay. And like you have Bhishma, you have a character called Nestor in the Iliad, who is the grand old man who has seen so much of troubles, etc. But Bhishma is adharmic. Nestor again and again gives dharmic advice, but still he cannot control adharma from happening right in front of his eyes. That is what happens with Bhishma also. Vastrapaharana is happening, he still cannot control his own people. That is what happens with Nestor. So there are parallels in the epic characters as well. By the way, I have spoken extensively about the Greek Puranas in Kannada, however. I have shown lot of parallels in stories. Parallels also we find with respect to the Panchatantra stories. Panchatantra, Hitopadesha, etc. like we have in India. We have the Aesop's fables in the Greek tradition. Exactly similar stories. In fact, all of these stories, the Jataka tales of the Buddhists, which traveled into China, Southeast Asia, Japan, etc. all that originated from the Bruhat Katha tradition. Bruhat Katha was a 3 lakh verses in the Paishachi Prakrita language, which we do not have today. But we have Katha Sarit Sagara, which is a reflection of that in the Sanskrit language. So this is this huge banyan tree of stories, which later became the Vetala Panchavimshati, the Vikrama or Betal stories, and Dvatrimshat Puttalika, 32 dolls telling stories, Jataka tales, and Aesop fables of the Greeks. All of them are from the same origin. Like that, many story similarities, character similarities, situational similarities we find in the Indian and the Greek tradition. I've spoken extensively about this in the Kannada language. But even if you are a Telugu or Tamil speaker, you might be able to understand my Kannada because it's not normal Kannada. It's slightly abnormal. It is in the sense that people today don't speak that kind of Kannada. It's more Sanskritized Kannada in the sense because it's a formal delivery. Yeah.
It's Kannada.
It is actual Kannada, but today's street Kannada is kind of very different, unfortunately. Today's Bangalore Kannada, see, ನಾವು ಆಡುವ ನುಡಿಯೇ ಕನ್ನಡ ನುಡಿ. ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತೀವೋ ಅದು ನೀವು ಕನ್ನಡ ಅಂತ ಅನ್ಕೊಂಡ್ಬಿಡಿ. We'll mix English, we'll mix Urdu, we'll mix Tamil and speak. But you should understand that it is Kannada. That is what is today's Bangalore Kannada. But I speak slightly older form of Kannada, so many South Indians must be able to understand that. Yeah. Okay, any other question? Comment?
How we have different kinds of various conflict, Mahabharata and Ramayana or Ramayana. Is there a different period?
Very good question. Very good question. There is this poet called Virgil in Latin. He wrote in Latin. So, by the way, the Greeks and the Romans are not different. The Greeks migrated into Rome and they became the Romans by assimilating with the Italic tribes which were already there. So there is this Latin Mahakavya called Iliad, which is kind of indicating, which kind of wants to make Troy take revenge on the Greeks because the Greeks had this Trojan horse and they cheated, etc. So it is said that the son-in-law of the Trojan king Priam, he travels all the way. His name is Aeneas. He establishes the city of Rome, which is the second Troy, to take revenge on Greece. So, inspiration from Iliad and Odyssey and combining both of them in one epic poem that has been done by Virgil. And variants of the story, like we have Kamban or Tulsidas, etc., we find in the playwrights in the Greek tradition. We have Sophocles, Aeschylus, Euripides, and a few playwrights. They have based their plays based on this story. And there are other epic poems, one by Quintus called The Fall of Troy, etc., which are extending upon this original epic poem and adding more details and bringing some differences, etc. So there are differences in narratives there also. Yeah. So that is also the freedom of creative expression that a culture gives. It's not written on stone like certain other religions have. You cannot change it for all times. It's one rule, etc. Yeah, very dangerous, very deadly, very terrorizing. Nothing more. Yeah. Any other question? Yeah.
With some time period?
Who? Which one?
Is it also added with some time period?
The epic itself or the events of the epic? So, see, the epic composition is from 1000 BC to 800 BC. It is in this period that Homer lived. The later day traditions say that Homer is the grandson of this person whom I mentioned as Nestor. Is the grandson, it is mentioned. So, it is something like Homer was contemporary to the events of the epics, of both the epics. He has seen the historical set of events, used his creative imagination to elaborate upon them. Just like Vyasa is contemporary to the events of the Mahabharata, but he has added magical realism and several other such things. Creative freedom has been taken. Valmiki is also contemporary to the events of the Ramayana. So now the Mahabharata has been dated as 3353 or something like that. Actual dating. So that is the date of the epic and the date of the events. Similarly, Homer's epics are somewhere between 1000 and 800 BC. The composition of the epic and the epic events happened around that period. Yeah. Very good question. There are a few upakathas, but not as much as in the Mahabharata. The Mahabharata has too many of them. Ramayana has lesser number. The Odyssey has larger number. The Iliad has lesser number. It's the opposite way. See, Mahabharata has larger number of upakathas, but Iliad, which is kind of the counterpart of Mahabharata, indicative of geography and time, that has lesser number of upakathas. But Odyssey, because it is traveling through so many different lands, you have smaller upakathas there, but the extent, another size comparison. Together, the Iliad and the Odyssey it is only about 10% of the Mahabharata. It's about 50% of the Ramayana. Ramayana has got, in the critical edition, about 18,000 or 19,000 shlokas. In the popular edition, it has got 25,000 shlokas. So it's about half of that size, Iliad and Odyssey put together. And if you compare it with the Mahabharata, it's only about 10% of the Mahabharata. So anyway, there is size difference. And because of the smaller size, the Upakathas are lesser. But what is interesting is, within the Ramayana, the entire story of the Ramayana is retold multiple times. Brahma tells it to Valmiki. Valmiki tells it to Bharadwaja. And then Hanuman tells it to Sita. And then the Vanaras tell it to Rama. Why this technique is used? Because when you're reading a huge story, you might forget some details. So again and again, as you are going through the story, recollect whatever has been already said. So that technique is also used in both Iliad and Odyssey. Again and again, kind of recollecting what has happened. And just like the inspiration for writing Ramayana came from Brahma, here also the muses are invoked. Muses are 9 goddesses. It's from them that the word music comes. There's a muse, Saraswati, for epic poetry, a muse for lyrical poetry, etc. So inspiration from the divine for describing something which is beyond our imagination. Valmiki got that inspiration, Vyasa got that inspiration, Homer also derives that inspiration from the divine. Okay, well, specific answer, less number of Upakathas, a few in Odyssey, lesser in Iliad. Yeah.
Continue in AMS.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I have a few copies of this book with me. If anybody wants, they can procure.
See, people who just want to know a couple of architectural details of how Roman and Greek gods look, you can go to our main building and next to the Tata statue, you have 4 things. One is Vulcan is there, Athena is there, Zeus is there, and Calliope is there. So you have those things you can go and. Now it is closed, but once cleaning is done, you can go and look at it. They are wonderful sculptures in itself. So building that has constructed around 160 years, but still has Roman and Greek influence. So it's
Is it? It's not open now. I would have loved to see it.
no, it's
Okay.
open. So they have
Vulcan, it's from the name Vulcan that volcano comes. Yeah. He actually sits below volcano called Etnia in Sicily, and he has a workshop there. Yeah. So that's how,
that is where his shield is made.
Achilles shield is made. Yeah. Yes.
So we conducted the Ramayana quiz. So here are the winners. The first prize is Akula Sa. Kripa Shankar Vajpayee.
Congratulations. Thank you, sir.
Hamsa.
Oh, I see. She is one of the reviewers of this book.
Okay.
Her name is mentioned in the book anyway.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So this is our humble.
Thank you.
So with this we conclude today's discussion. Thank you all and thanks MHNs for waiting us for some more. Thank you. We will continue with this.